Welcome back, everybody, to the Philadelphia Eagles franchise here on Madden 22. Today we are going to kick off the season number 2 offseason with free agency. And this is a pivotal offseason for our Eagles after really fumbling what was a golden opportunity to make the postseason by losing our final 5 games. We are under some pressure, and if we don't perform this season, we could very well get fired. And because of that, our owner, Jeffrey Lurie, has set some guidelines for what we must accomplish this offseason as our big twist. So these are the 4 things we must do. We explained them in the last episode, but for those who missed, we must spend $30 million annually on new free agents. That cannot include players who were already on the roster. We must sign at least one 85-plus overall player. That number can fluctuate based on how good the free agency class is. We must add 2 impact rookies, and we must get competition for our quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who did not produce to standards this year. Before we get into player transactions, let's talk about the staff movement. We had 2 head coaches get fired in Sean McVay of the Rams and Robert Saleh of the Jets. Saleh has been unable to turn around the New York Jets, as for like every coach they've hired in the past 50 years. And for the Rams, the Matthew Stafford trade has blown up in their face, and they have been really bad in the first 2 seasons of this series, and McVay is kind of the scapegoat with that. We are also going to do some firings, letting go of both of our offensive and defensive coordinators. We can't fire ourselves, so I do feel like we need some new coordinators to get the most out of our players. Those teams who fired their coaches have hired replacements, with Byron Leftwich going to the Jets and Nathaniel Hackett going to the Rams. 2 good hires. They're solid offensive minds, Leftwich coming from the Bucs, Hackett from the Packers, and I think they're really good moves. But there's actually another team hiring a new head coach. The Las Vegas Raiders let go of John Gruden in season. They need a replacement. They were originally looking at New England's Gerard Mayo, who is a big part of that defense. Obviously, Bill Belichick leads the defense, but Mayo has really developed under him. However, the Raiders changed their mind and instead are hiring Dabo Swinney. Typical Raiders to get the guy they shouldn't from a high-profile college. They do it in the draft, and now they do it in their coach search. This is the most Las Vegas Raiders thing like ever. Gerard Mayo was the perfect hire for them, but they're going with Dabo instead. So we need new coordinators, obviously, and with McVay and Saleh getting fired, I think hiring both of them could really give ours a new buzz. Although they have struggled the past couple years as head coaches, we know they are great coordinators. McVay is one of the bright, young offensive minds in the NFL, and I think if we can get Sean McVay here, maybe he can rejuvenate our offense, whether it's Jalen Hurts or somebody else under center, and I think he could be hired as a head coach very quickly because he knows what he's doing. And then as for Robert Saleh, he was a great defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. Things didn't really work out with him as a head coach in New York, but we know he's a great defensive coordinator. There's plenty of talent on that side of the ball for us, and Saleh also knows how to get the most of his players. So we are hiring 2 very high-profile coordinators who just got fired. Their stock is a little bit low, and I think both of them can rejuvenate their careers here in Philadelphia, and I think those are home run hires for us. So let's talk about player transactions now. That'll start with the retirements phase. We have a number of older players on this roster, and I'm expecting to lose quite a few of our vets, which certainly sucks, but that's the name of the game. And as you can see here, there are some solid players in here. Ezekiel Ansah, the former Eagle, another former Eagle. Malcolm Jenkins, Philadelphia Eagle, great. There are a few big names in here. Nate Solder, Richard Sherman down the board, Gerald McCoy, Golden Tate, but none of our players. So, to my surprise, Jason Kelce, who almost retired in season, is sticking around at 35. 34-year-old Brandon Brooks is still here. 33-year-old Lane Johnson. I thought at least 1 or 2 of those guys was going to go. So that's really big for us. Here in the re-signs phase, we have plenty of money, and we do have a few key players that we have to bring back. So currently, we have exactly $100 million in cap space, and obviously one of our offseason objectives is that we have to spend $30 million per year on new players. That does not include re-signings. So let's say we re-sign Fletcher Cox to $15 million a year. That does not count. Even if we re-sign Fletcher Cox in the open market for $15 a year, it doesn't count. So we're going to go position by position. Not a lot on offense. We do have our fullback, Stu Pidd. I don't really want to pay a fullback that type of money if we're not really going to use him. We do have our backup tight ends, Evan Wiggins and Hakeem Butler. They're both kind of asking for a lot of money. I'm going to re-sign Wiggins and let go of Butler. Obviously, Hakeem Butler's my boy. I'm a big fan of his, but I just don't really think there's a spot for him. Andre Dillard wants a lot of money. He's not a starter at this point, so I had no problem letting him go. Tyler Palumbo is definitely the left tackle of the future. And that brings us to Jason Kelce, who I was not anticipating we would have to re-sign because I had assumed he was going to retire. And this was a tough choice for me. I mean, Jason Kelce is a Philadelphia Eagles legend. He has to retire in Philadelphia. He can't go anywhere else. But I don't really know if I want to offer him 10 a year now. So we'll get back to him. I'll probably offer him on the open market. Maybe we'll consider franchise tagging him, but for now, we're going to let him go. As for Clelin Ferrell, we cannot let him go. He's probably our most important player here among the re-signings, even more so than Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox because those guys are a little bit older. I think the fair offer here is perfect. 2 years, $13.6 million. He accepts. That's big. Him and Josh Sweat being the defensive end duo for the future is great for us. At right end, I feel like all three of these guys are kind of asking for too much money to be rotational guys, so we're not going to bring him back. At defensive tackle, Dalvin Tomlinson, who we acquired at the trade deadline, I don't really think we should bring him back. I don't think he was all that impressive. I feel like that was kind of a waste of a trade for us. As for Fletcher Cox, I do feel like we should bring him back. Even though he's coming off a down year, he did not play all that well here in the 2022 season, but I think it would be foolish to let him go. We're going to offer him the fair offer. He says no, which is fine. So we're going to we want to franchise tag him, but the franchise tag for defensive tackles is over $26 million. So that's just not going to happen. We'll have to re-sign him on the open market, but we'll definitely make a good offer towards him in actual free agency. At linebacker, I do want to bring back Tracy Beckham. He was an undrafted rookie. Didn't play a whole lot, but he'll be good depth, especially with Jared Davis and Ogbonia Okoronkwo not being re-signed. Another undrafted rookie, Joe Manning, will be re-signed at corner. And that's it. So outside of re-signing Clelin Ferrell, we didn't really bring any of our starters back. The big two free agents are Kelce and Cox, who I do plan on offering both of them at the open market. Obviously, Cox with a franchise tag, that just wasn't really going to work out. I don't want to pay him anywhere near that contract. That's probably how much Aaron Donald is making, and Fletcher Cox is not Aaron Donald. So let's go into free agency. Let's see how good this class is. We have $85 million to spend, and bam! There is some talent. Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, right at the top. And there are some guys below them. Kareem Hunt, Fletcher Cox, obviously, who's getting quite a bit of offers. J.J. Watt, Devin White, Zadarius Smith, Adrian Amos, Levante David, Tony Pollard, Bobby Wagner, Jamel Dean, Baker Mayfield, Jason Kelce, Mecole Hardman. A lot of really good players for us. So with the $86 million, my first priority is to look at the offensive line. And there is just not much here, unfortunately. Jason Kelce is by far the best one here. So we'll get back to him in a second, but first we have to re-sign Fletcher Cox, and there is a lot of interest from him. He has gotten 6 offers. The Jags are currently the front runner, and I am willing to give this man a bag. We offer him $17 million. That puts us ahead of Jacksonville, but not by much. So I'm going to up the offer to $19 million. I know this is a lot of money, but it's only for 1 year, and we cannot afford to lose him. As for Jason Kelce, I think the strategy here is going to be the same. We're going to offer him $14 million, which I guess, looking at hindsight, we should have done this in the re-sign phase, but it's kind of too late. So we offer them. We now have $53.1 million, and remember, we must spend $30 million of that. And at the top, there's a lot of talent. And remember, we have to sign at least one 85 overall player. I think keeping it at least an 85 is perfectly fair because this is a good but not great free agency class. The name who I think makes the most sense is not one of those young guys. It's actually J.J. Watt, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by that. I don't really want to pay big bucks for a receiver because we're good there. I thought about Devin White, but I think we're good at linebacker. So I'm willing to give J.J. Watt a 1-year deal for $16 million. I know that's overpaying a little bit, but it's only 1 year, and having him and Fletcher Cox in the defensive line would be big. We're going to up the offer because the Jaguars really want him, so we're going to do now $17.5 million for 1 year, and that puts us in first place. But we're not comfortable. We're going to up it to $19 million. I just want to ensure we land him. Imagine him and Cox in the middle of that defensive line. That'd be nasty. So at wide receiver, as I said, I don't want to pay one of those top guys long-term because we have Devontae Smith, we have Tykeem Keon, but I'm not opposed to signing someone down here like Mecole Hardman. Hardman is a burner. I don't want to give him 4 years because, well, we have to re-sign Smith and Keon eventually. So I'm going to do 2 years, 31. That's a lot of money for Mecole Hardman. Puts us at 87 points, which does not put us ahead of the Giants. I don't really want him on our division rival, so that's another reason why to overbid. We're going to move it up to $34+ million. That's 17 a year for Mecole Hardman, which feels like way too much, but I'm going to do it. So at linebacker, as I said, I don't really want to sign Devin White. I love Devin White, but I think signing him to a long-term deal doesn't make sense because we have great linebackers for the future. But I'm not opposed to signing an older player like Bobby Wagner. Wagner does not have any offers at the moment, so why not? We're going to offer him about $10 million per season. I'm going to up the offer even though there isn't any other interest. I want to make sure we get him. So that is more than $30 million. That's practically all our damn cap space. We would offer a few more players on the offensive and defensive lines, some depth deals in Jalen Holmes, Nick Algoretti, and Jake Hansen to try to get some more depth on the trenches. So we're going to simulate the week. We're going after some big-name players, as you can see. Definitely not shying away from being aggressive. And in Stage 2, we would find out that we would get most of our targets, but not J.J. Watt or Mecole Hardman, which is not good. We do bring back Cox and Kelsey, which I know Eagles fans are going to like. But we didn't sign any of our big guys. Bobby Wagner is still here, and now he has 11 bids, so we have to way up the offer for him, which I am willing to do, because I really want Bobby Wagner. There aren't many 85-plus players left, and we have to make Jeffrey Lurie happy. That bid keeps us in 11th, so I'm going to move the offer to 17 a year. I know it's an overpay, but it's only for 1 year, and I think it's worth it. So now let's talk quarterback. We have to get competition for Jalen Hurts, and the two names who make the most sense are Colin Kaepernick and Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think they would both be fine, but I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards Jimmy G. As much fun as it would be to have Colin Kaepernick, I think he's too similar to Jalen Hurts in the fact that Kaepernick can make a lot of splash plays, but he's also erratic. Jimmy Garoppolo is very consistent. He does not have the high-end moments that Hurts or Kaepernick have, but his low moments are lower, and I want to get someone who is the complete opposite of Jalen Hurts in that aspect. We would also offer Caden Smith, a blocking tight end, and we obviously still have Bobby Wagner's offer on the table as well. So moving into Stage 3 of free agency, all three players would accept. Caden Smith, Bobby Wagner, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm very excited about Bobby Wagner. I think he's going to be really fun. I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be popular amongst you guys, and I get it. He's not a fun quarterback, but if Jalen Hurts does struggle, it would be nice to have someone who can provide us some consistency. So we spent pretty much $30 million. I think it was a tad less, but I don't think Lurie's going to get on our backs for being like $1 million or two off. It's fine. So now let's talk trade. And at the moment, our team really is not that much different. We added Bobby Wagner. That's really our only big-time move. But there is a player who I do think a trade would be smart with, and that's Darius Slay. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Lions fan. I love Darius Slay. This hurts to do. But I think it's in the best interest of us to move on. Darius Slay has recorded 14 interceptions in the 2 seasons of the series, including 6 last year. That's a lot, but he's 32. He's on the last year of his contract, and he wasn't good last year. I know he had 6 interceptions, but he was just not good in coverage. There's a lot of interest from him around the league, and a team who makes a lot of sense to me is the Minnesota Vikings. They are rough at corner. They only have 3 players here with Dantzler, Milner, and Hand. If they can have a high upside corner, that's a big deal. They do have quite a few draft picks, including our 3rd rounder, thanks to the Dalvin Tomlinson deal. So the trade I would come up with is Darius Slay in pick 94 from the Patriots to Minnesota for pick 28 in the 1st round. I know this looks like a crazy deal for both sides, but let me explain it. So Darius Slay did not have a good season. Despite all the interceptions, he was just so inconsistent in coverage for us, but he's still a very high-end corner, which is why we are still getting a lot for him. We have a lot of talent at corner, and even with Slay going, that is not a position of need. We used a top 3 pick on Nehemiah Richardson last year, who looks great. Michael Ojemudia is a good player. CJ Thomas, our 2nd rounder last year, did not play much as a rookie, but he's ready to be a full-time starter this year, which is why Slay is expendable. As for the Minnesota Vikings, they are going all in on this season. This is their last year in the Kirk Cousins window. As you'll see in a moment, they have spent a ton of money in free agency, so they are going all in. They do not care about draft picks, and this is not a high first rounder. This is pick 28 at the end of round 1. So I think it's a fair deal for both sides. I get why one might think it's a lot for a 32-year-old corner who's on an expiring contract and was not very good last year, but Darius Slay can still be a high-level corner, and Minnesota is going for a championship this season. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some moves around the rest of the NFL. And let me tell you, there are some big ones. And we've got a couple big-time quarterbacks on the move. If you remember last year in the draft, the Seattle Seahawks used their 2nd-round pick on Kaepernick's Falconbridge out of Kentucky, one of just 3 superstar X-Factor players in the entire class. So they don't need Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's frustrations with the front office have continued to grow, and he wants out. With the Cleveland Browns losing Baker Mayfield in the offseason, the Browns make a lot of sense for Russell Wilson. So a deal would be made. Russell Wilson is going to Cleveland, but it's not going to be for a small price. 2 first-round picks, one this year at pick 26, one next year, and the Browns' first-rounder last year, linebacker Dalton Jett, who's a really good young player, did not get a ton of snaps as a rookie, and then to make it even more fair for Seattle, we are swapping a 6 and a 3. So Russell Wilson and a 6th-rounder for 2 1s, Dalton Jett, and a 3rd. That's a big haul for a 34-year-old quarterback, but it's Russell Wilson who is elite and can turn the Browns into a legitimate contender again. As for the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers is in a similar position. The Packers just lost the NFC Championship this past year, again, and Rodgers is very frustrated with this team. The issues with Rodgers and Packers brass have been going on for years, and Rodgers has finally declared he wants out, and for good reason. The Packers have refused to help him out. They did sign Cole Beasley and Traquan Smith in the offseason, but that's just not enough. And they also have Jordan Love there, so they already have his replacement lined up, and the Denver Broncos are a team who needs a quarterback. So we're working on a deal here. I'm currently sitting at a 1st and a 3rd. Obviously, that's not enough. Even though I strongly dislike the Packers in real life, I'm not going to give them an unfair deal here. So I wanted to add a player, and I honestly think Noah Fant makes a lot of sense. The Broncos drafted tight end Trace Bennett-Saylord in the 2nd round last year. They also have Albert Okuegbunam. So I think this is a fair trade. For whatever reason, it wouldn't work, even though I'm using both teams. So I had to maneuver some contracts around, and here we go. The 9th overall pick, so that's a top 10 pick going to Green Bay, along with a 3rd rounder and Noah Fant. That is a big haul for a 39-year-old quarterback. But this is the Peyton Manning pickup 2.0, and Denver, like those teams with Peyton Manning, have another chance to reclaim Super Bowl glory. We've got a couple pretty big trades here as well. Cooper Kupp and a 5th going to the Colts for a 2nd. The Rams need to restart, and the Colts get an alpha receiver. And keep in mind, Cooper Kupp is not as good as he is in real life. And then Xavier Howard is going to the Niners for a 2 and a 3. The Dolphins have spent big money on another player, so they're willing to move on from Xavier Howard, and they have plenty of talent in the secondary. The Niners' only weakness is their secondary. Their roster is loaded head to toe. They want to take advantage of having Trey Lance on the rookie contract, so now they get a true high-level corner. So let's recap free agency for the rest of the league. The top quarterback, Baker Mayfield, is not on a team, so he's going to be signed in the preseason by somebody. So going down the board, Tyreek Hill is a Dolphin. I told you Miami spent big money. So Kansas City loses their top receiver, but they replace him with Terry McLaurin. At least he's out of the division, but my God, is Terry McLaurin on the Chiefs scary. Hunt is going to the Bucks, J.J. Watt to the Jags. The Jags and the Vikings were big-time spenders. Jacksonville also got Adrian Amos. The Vikings added Devin White and Zadarius Smith. Mecole Hardman does go to the Giants. That is unfortunate. We tried, but to no avail. The Jaguars also added some pieces in the secondary. They signed Juan Thornhill. I think they signed another corner as well down the board. I kind of forget who. As for the other QBs, Colin Kaepernick is a Falcon, Drew Lock to the Vikings, Taysom Hill to San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan's going to have some fun with him. Other than that, nothing really notable. I guess Nathan Peterman to the Jets. That's kind of funny. So that concludes today's episode, and although there weren't many groundbreaking moves for us, other than, I guess, swapping Darius Slay and Bobby Wagner on defense, I think we've put ourselves in a good position going into the draft. We now have 2 first-round picks, and we have an opportunity to make a splash. Next episode will be the draft preview, in which we will preview the draft, and then after that will be the draft itself. Let me know what you thought of our free agency. I know this was a very different free agency from how I would normally handle things, but with obviously us needing to win next year, I had to go into a win-now mode, even though we traded away Darius Slay. And I think we're in a good position. It wasn't a pretty offseason, but we made some good moves, and I think our team is headed in the right direction. And I think this draft is going to be a big one. So I hope you guys are excited. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.